Welcome back to the I-24 News Desk Special Report. We'll move now to cover some of the international reactions that are still pouring in after the U.S. strike in Syria. Now, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis asked for Britain's opinion before deciding to launch the missile attack early this morning. Here is a soundbite now from Britain's defense minister.
Last couple of days following the gas attack, there have been intensive consultations in London, in Washington, at the United Nations, and the American Defense Secretary called me to discuss the various options early yesterday evening. And once the President had made his decision, then the American Defense Secretary called me again to give us advance notice of the strike, and the Prime Minister's been informed, kept informed throughout. In previous uses of gas by the Assad regime in Syria, flouting international law. This is the first time it's happened under the Trump administration, and they've decided that they want to help deter it in future. So this was a very limited, very appropriate, narrowly focused action to attack the airfield, the aeroplanes and the equipment that the United States believe was involved in the gas attack, to deter the regime from future attacks and hopefully therefore to save lives in future.
All right, joining me live now from London is our Europe correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, thank you for being with us. There are questions now if this single strike was enough. We're hearing now from Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan that this strike needs to be followed up with a more comprehensive strategy. What does the UK want to see? Are they happy with this strike as a proportional response, or do they want to see more involvement that could lead to Assad's ouster?
Well, it's a very good question. You've just heard there the official response is that they think this was a discrete, one-off targeted attack, and that's why they feel that they can speak out so openly about supporting it. But don't forget that back in 2013, Britain, the government then led by David Cameron, had wanted to go to war in Syria against Assad, but he was unable to win a vote in Parliament, unable to convince Edward Miliband, then leader of the Labour Party, that that was a good idea. And similarly today, Jeremy Corbyn, the new leader of the Labour Party, has come out as being against what has just happened. So the government has to be very careful, and the UK, like many other countries, is still very war-weary over Iraq. And despite the completely different circumstances, some would say, of this situation, there is still a reluctance to get involved in what could be seen as a protracted and prolonged war in the Middle East.
Have we heard, so Jeremy Corbyn, is this an opportunity politically in the UK for Jeremy Corbyn and for Prime Minister May?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn has long been anti-war of any kind. He's something of a pacifist, one might say. It's one thing that many people, even Labour supporters, say makes him unelectable as a potential prime minister. He seems to be somebody who would almost never use the British military for their desired purpose. And he says that this should be negotiated, that all sides should come to the table, the usual sort of talk that one hears from Corbyn and others like him, that really there should be a diplomatic solution, negotiations around the table and the like could sort this out. Of course, those images we saw of the chemical attack, not the first as well, rather put paid to the idea that there is the ability to negotiate with Bashar al-Assad. And that's why Mrs. May and her government feel confident in saying that in the light of what happened earlier in the week, yes, she does support what happened last night, that she does believe that the US acted correctly. The UK is supporting it, but they were also keen to point out that they were not involved and that this is not their action, nor were they asked to be by President Trump.
All right, Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you for your time in London. We'll move now from the response in the United Kingdom to the response here in Israel.